Hello, good afternoon and welcome to The Pulse. We're live on DSTV channel 421, Go TV channel 125, across all our social media handles. We're joining you on TV. Coming up on The Pulse, President Akufo-Addo pledges government support for traders affected by the fire that swept through and destroyed everything at a section of Kantamanto Market.
I'm deeply saddened by the devastating fire at Kantamanto Market, which took place yesterday, and has left many traders and their livelihoods in ruins. My thoughts and prayers are with those affected.
We have details as he delivers his final address on the state of the nation, attributing the MPP's loss of some parliamentary seats to his government's fight against illegal mining. Also coming up, one person dead and over 30,000 traders affected and more than 7,000 shops destroyed as the Kantamanto Traders Association counts the losses of its members 24 hours after fire ravaged a section of the market.
I know somebody died from where the fire started. He was sleeping on top of some of the bills. So before he realized that there was a fire, he fell from the, he was rushed to Kurubu. But
also coming up, Ghana Education Service insists the date for the reopening of schools remains on the 3rd of January as it assures speedy resolution of concerns raised by leadership of CHAS. The Pulse, as always, is brought to you by Global Communities Dignilu, affordable, safe sanitation for all. We're live on DSTV channel 421, Go TV channel 125. My name is Faustina Safo. It's a good time to take a seat and be my guest. Thanks for choosing us. We are your home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. Well, the country is not broke, as some propagandists want us to believe. Those are the exact words of President Akufo-Addo as he today delivered his final State of the Nation address to Parliament, providing a comprehensive account of his administration's performance, highlighting significant strides and challenges across key sectors of the economy. Well, here on The Pulse, we will be analyzing his last words to the nation. Let's start from assessing his words when it comes to what he said about the economy after 8 years of stewardship.
The economy is rebounding strongly. Our fiscal position is more stable, and our debt sustainability has significantly improved. These developments have provided a solid foundation for sustained growth and development, ensuring that the sacrifices made by bondholders and other stakeholders will not be in vain, but rather the basis of Ghana's economic revival. Mr. Speaker, the country is not broke, as some propagandists want us to believe. We're handing over the country with gross international reserves of almost $8 billion United States dollars. This is more than the $6.2 billion United States dollars of gross international reserves my administration inherited in 2017. Economic growth. The noise will not shut out the statistics. And I intend to put the statistics on the record of Hansard, no matter the amount of noise.
The noise cannot shatter the statistics. Those are the exact words of President Akufo-Addo. But let's subject his analysis of how he's leaving the state of the economy to some scrutiny. Joining me now is Dr. Edu Sarkodie. He's an economist Now, thank you so much for your time here on The Pulse. The president says that he's not leaving behind a broke economy. Is that the actual case?
Well, I think broke is a strong word to use. I wouldn't use that word. I would say challenges.
Okay.
Perhaps what people were, I mean, if you subject the word broke, is similar to bankruptcy or an insolvent country, if it's a company. So if the country is unable to meet its obligations, then, in that sense, people may relate the economy to broke, but I wouldn't say that. But even if you come to the word meeting your obligations, you look at the expenditure items in the budget, the government was unable to meet the debt service obligations. The reason for the debt exchange programs, both domestic and external. In fact, in 2022, we were heading towards that word broke. The challenges were so severe that we had to resort to an IMF program. And the prior action for the IMF program was to restructure our debt. So, and we also relate this to the downgrading, because the downgrading that we experienced in 2021, 2022 coming was all because of Ghana's inability to meet its debt service obligations. So if you put the debt service obligations, then of course on that score we were broke. But this was way back 2022, and we had to restructure our debt. So the whole idea is that you are not able to pay your debt, and therefore you need some reliefs. And we've sought for some reliefs from the domestic market and also the external creditors. The other obligations, of course, the government was able to meet them, like compensation to employees, meeting the goods and services, meeting the transfer to government units. There were challenges, but the government was able to meet it. So in a nutshell, I think I would say that the challenges were very severe in 2022. Of course, we also know how the Bank of Ghana intervened, and we saw the report from the Bank of Ghana that the intervention that they made was necessary, because they also feared that the country was going to that word broke level. And so they averted that situation. And I also support the whole idea that the Bank of Ghana had to step in to support the government with liquidity. They call it call for liquidity support, because what you wouldn't want to see in an economy is where people queue for fuel. That is a broke economy. You don't want to see doomsday, people living in darkness. That's a very severe challenge, like a broke economy. But I would say that we didn't get there. But now, currently, the word I may use, I'm not a politician, so allow the politicians to do their debates. But as an economist, I will use the word rebounding or recovery. The economy is recovering. Like being sick and you go to the doctor. The doctor here was the IMF. We went to them, they gave us some prescriptions, and the positions are getting better and better than the year 2022. Inflation is now around 23%, though it's still high, but at least it's better than the 54% we ended in the year 2022. The city is currently depreciating still. It's been very stable during the festive season. I went to the Forest Bureau, I asked them, they said that it's because of the inflow of funds, the foreigners coming in here and there. So they attribute to that. So fairly stable currency, better than the 2022 one. GDP growth has rebounded. I think the third quarter we recorded about 7% or so, far better than the 2 and 3% we even projected for the year. So things are picking up, getting better than the 2022 levels, which led us to the IMF program. I will also add that the economy has not fully recovered. It's still in the process of recovering, but has not fully recovered. And also, when you read the IMF documents, when they come for a review, they make similar statements. I think the IMF board, the boss made a scenario that, want to climb to the top of a hill, and you are still climbing. Ghana has not reached the destination. We are still climbing. So we have not reached our destination. We are still climbing. And most of the indicators point to a better pre-COVID level indicators that we expect to reach them by 2026. I mean, early months of 2026. I mean, first quarter or second quarter 2026. So from now until that year, for the next 1 year ahead of us, it's all about recovery. And things are getting better than the 2022 levels. I think right now, what is really a big concern for many Ghanaians is not the fact that we queue for fuel. It's not the fact that we cannot pay for transport. It's not the fact that the lights are off, but it's the fact that the cost of living is high and we have been paying higher than expected prices for most of the commodities. You take a typical staple, I mean, wache, kenke, cocoa, and you go to the restaurants, wherever you were, you go to buy towels, you go and buy furniture. Almost every item in Ghana, you've seen a soar in their prices. That is a major concern in the country. And this one,
indeed,
both MPP and NDC have all acknowledged that the cost of living in Ghana is very high. And I think that on that score, we need to really deal with it as a country. You were making a point?
Yeah, I was making a point because when it comes to the cost of living, this administration's defense for how bad the economy fared was because of external shocks. They tell us that the Ukraine-Russia war was a key factor in how the economy played out. Is it safe to say that we're out of the woods now?
No, we are not out. Again, if you go back to the Bank of Ghana report, which says that the rate of disinflation has slowed, it means that we wanted to reduce inflation, which is the cost of living, as a measure of cost of living, very fast. But as a country, we are unable to reduce inflation the way we wanted it. And this has been attributed to several factors, so many factors. Some of the factors are, of course, the election uncertainties. Many businessmen and women investors were unsure of the outcome of our elections. And at this point, I must commend Dr. Bawumia for conceding early and to ease the tension in the country. And so, by God's grace, we have gone over this election, and I think that all uncertainties have been eroded. Another one is the tensions, the geopolitical tensions in the Middle East. We still have the Russia-Ukraine war at hand, disrupting supply chain. But we still have our internal challenges. So I will not attribute everything to external shock. In fact, if you read that again, if you go back to the IMF document, they say that the external shock exacerbated the already existing domestic weaknesses in our economy. So we have our own weaknesses, we have our own internal challenges, and the external shock only exacerbated it, only made matters worse. So we have external problems to deal with. We just hope that the tensions are eased in the Middle East and also the other external factors. We have our exchange rate depreciation, our exchange rate challenge. This is a domestic one. This is really purely a domestic one, and we need to deal with it as a country. There are challenges of transport costs. It's a domestic one. There are challenges of storage. It's a domestic one. There are challenges of a big gap between the farm gate price and then the market price of almost all agricultural produce. For example, somebody may buy a bag of rice, as I'm just using a hypothetical scenario, like 200 cedis, and they'll come to Accra or Kumasi or Takrady and sell it at, say, 800 cedis. These are internal challenges. This cannot be attributed to external. So we have both external and internal challenges. And these challenges we haven't overcome them yet. We still have to deal with them. This year, last year, 2024's budget was really focusing a greater part of the money. In fact, the allocation to agricultural sector was really increased. The idea behind it was to make sure there's a food security. Yes, there was food security, but the prices were just high. So these challenges have been with us, the domestic ones. Yeah. We need to deal with them as a country, and I've already mentioned several of them. So
it's a good time for me to take you back to the domestic debt exchange program and the impact on the economy, because bondholders were one of the sector or groups that were most affected by this debt restructuring program. We heard from the president today assuring that his government will honor payment of some of the bonds. He gave a specific figure. He said $346 million coupon payment for Eurobond holders. This comes as good news, doesn't it?
It is. It comes as good news. That's why I always refer to the definition of broke, that if you are unable to meet your obligations, but here we have the assurance from the president that we are able, as a country, able to meet the obligations, maybe some of them, if not all, some of them. We remember that the creditors, both domestic and external, have suffered haircut on interest payment and principal payment. In fact, I was of the view that I have never seen any country which has gone through debt exchange and that country has been, that the government has been safe. In fact, I made this suggestion to some ministers that when a country goes through that, the party in power suffers politically, economically, and socially. I made that point to them. But of course, maybe at that time, that was the only option they had to choose. And they have suffered for it, of course, partly to be blamed for that. So the creditors have suffered, they have sacrificed. And the president acknowledged it, and the finance minister and his various interactions with the media has acknowledged the sacrifices made by the domestic creditors and external creditors. And so now, if the government is able to pay for those service the debt, both domestic and external, it is good news. It is good news to us as a country, because if we're able to meet those obligations, then we are likely to be upgraded. When we are upgraded by the international credit rating agencies, it will afford us more investors and more opportunities and open more doors for us. So it's good news that we start meeting our debt service obligations, which in my view is a good thing for the country.
In 1 minute before I let you go, though, I just wanted to find out what kind of economy would the new administration be working with, especially because we know that under the domestic debt exchange program and our international debt restructuring program, some of the timelines we gave our external debtors would be expiring in the next administration, meaning they will have to be paying more money for debt. So what kind of economy would they have to deal with? As we wrap up the conversation under 1 minute.
Yeah, in short, a challenging one in terms of debt payment, meeting our debt service obligations. You rightly pointed out that we are still within the IMF program, so we cannot look far. We still, if you want to look at the picture of the economy, still go to the review of the IMF by the IMF staff, which is still saying that we are still challenged, we are still recovering from our worst positions. The picture we have now that the new administration is going to inherit is an economy that from now, I'm sure we've resolved many of the challenges in the energy sector. But IMF has pointed out that the cost of providing electricity in Ghana is so high, so that should be on the list of the new administration. And the cost of living in general, prices of items, how to deal with it. Last time I was having a conversation with a friend that we don't need to look far. Go and look at the Ghana Statistical Service report on inflation. They break it down to the individual items that drive inflation, which have higher inflation. The top 10 items with the highest inflation, we know them. So once you're able to identify them, then you deal with them. They also break inflation down to regional levels and to even the district levels. So if you want to fight cost of living, you know where to go. So high cost of living, high energy cost, debt service obligations are all waiting for the new administration. And that is why I make a point that I know this point may not be popular, but I think we should be measured in the way they want to give out tax exemptions, and also the idea that they must fulfill their campaign promise by canceling certain taxes. In a position in where we find ourselves now, government needs revenue. This is not a time to call for these tax cancellations. If they have to revise it, review it in such a way that the burden on the poor will be softer, then I agree. But the point I'm making is that in a scenario where you need revenue, you must be measured in how you approach this tax cancellation, because MPP did that in 2017, and we saw a very steep drop in their revenue collection, and there was no contingency plan. So if Mr. Mahama, President Mahama, His Excellency, wants to get rid of COVID-19 levy and e-levy and all that, there must be a contingency plan so that we don't fall into the same hole as a country we fell into in 2017.
Okay.
There's a huge gap between revenue and expenditure. So we must do well to close the gap.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Edu Sarkodie. He is an economist. Now, the President Akufo-Addo also lauded his administration transformation of Ghana's education system, citing the free SHS policy, which has provided secondary education access to 5.7 million youth. He noted improved performance in national exams and the establishment of STEM schools to equip students with specialized skills.
There can be no such arguments about the introduction of the free SHS and free TVET programs. Another policy that did not have universal approval when I sought to introduce it on coming into office. However, I believe this is one of the rare occasions on which we can use the word transformational without any danger of abusing the word. We have transformed education, and there can never be a reversal, of the fact that some 5.7 million young people have gained access to secondary education who would otherwise not have had the opportunity, but for free SHS and free TVET. Indeed, my administration has also prioritized technical and vocational education and training, TVET, establishing 34 new TVET institutions and upgrading 62 existing ones to equip our youth with 21st century skills. Mr. Speaker, I'm proud that we were brave enough to have started the free SHS policy at the beginning of my first term and resisted the calls for a gradual introduction. I'm glad that we've removed from the Ghanaian mindset the belief that secondary school education is only for people from certain households and families. From 2020, when the first cohort of free senior high school candidates sat for the WACC exam, Ghana has consistently recorded over 50% of candidates scoring A1 to C6 in all 4 core subjects. This marks a stark improvement compared to the years prior, particularly the period when pass rates in core subjects were largely below 50%.
Well, let's subject his analysis of the educational sector to some scrutiny. Dr. Peter Andy is Executive Director, Institute for Education Studies, Ghana. Now, I've seen a write-up you've put up on social media, and you say, quote, there can never be a reversal of the fact that some 5.7, I beg your pardon, young people have gained access to secondary education who would otherwise not have had the opportunity for free SHS and TVET. That's the president's quote, and you say this is inaccurate. Why is that the case?
Thank you very much, and good afternoon. Yes, I think that even if you take the 5.7 million students that the president is talking about, you can't say, even if we admit that there are 5.7 million students who have benefited from free senior high school, you can't say that without the free SHS, none of them would have been in senior high school by now. It is highly inaccurate. You can't say that because prior to the introduction of free senior high school, a lot of people were having access to senior high school, and the number that have been added on, technically, if you want to look at it, would be less than 10% of the total number of students that access senior high school over the years. So to say that without free senior high school, that number would not have had access to secondary education is an exaggeration that you can never even think about, and it's not accurate. But even is the number truly 5.7? It is not 5.7. You look at the data, because we have challenges with data. You do what we call data triangulation. So you look at the data from various points. You look at the data from WAEC, as in those who have sat for BEC over the years, and that is an entry point. That data is around 4.3 million. So if you assume that all those who sat for BEC from 2017 to this year and have enrolled in senior high schools are those they are talking about, that is 4.3. That is far below the 5.7. If you look at the data from those who have been placed by the computer placement system, that is a data that is less than 4.3. It is around 3.5 million. Those who have been placed by the computer placement is 3.5 million. So if you do that analysis too, it is less than the 5.7 that the president is talking about. If you look at the data from those who have been enrolled, you see, the Ghana Education Service collects data and then they put it in the MS that at the Ministry of Education. So enrollment for each year, 2017, 2018, 2019, if you put that together, that is around 4.1. That is also still far below the 5.7 the president is talking about. So if we want to work with data, we want to make policies with data, we should be able to get accurate data so that we can plan as to how we'll be able to go around this policy. The policy is good. We've been able to help some people to access technical and secondary education, but we should not continue to exaggerate the data and say things that are technically not true. And that is the point I was trying to make.
I can see in your write-up that you also raise concerns about the Education Ministry failure to publish the education sector performance report.
Yes, that is a very unfortunate situation, and if you speak to the donor agencies, they have complained about this over the years. We have what we call the education sector performance report, and that report puts the education sector in perspective every year, and this has been published since the 1990s. So every year we put out a report of the education sector, how it is going, the data in terms of the parameters and the variables that we look at. Every year the Ministry of Education publishes this. From 2020, this Ministry of Education, under the leadership of Dr. Educhum, has refused to publish this annual report. They have not published this for the past 4 years, which means that we do not have a report of how our education sector is performing for the past 4 years. And that is curious because before him, under Dr. Matthew Poku Prempeh, they were publishing it. I think the last one was around 2019. And if you look at it, it tells you how the sector has been doing under President Mahama, under the Vice President-elect, Nano Poku-Addo. They were publishing it. Now, under Dr. Educhum, they did not publish a single education sector performance report, which is very, very unfortunate. And that even gives credence to the fact that there's been some exaggeration in the system. And because they do not want to put some of this data out officially, they decided not to publish the report at all. But I was coming to talk about the assertion also by the president that the idea that the free senior high school was implemented not progressively, but at a go. That is also not accurate. Progressive is in two phases. Either you do it by the NDC way, that is by doing the day student kind of free senior high school, or you do it by year base. What the MPP did was to implement a progressive free senior high school by starting from SHS1. So in 2017, those who enjoyed free senior high school were those who were admitted in September 2017. At that time, there were students in SHS2, there were students in SHS3 that did not benefit from free senior high school. So the assertion that the free senior high school was not implemented progressively is also not accurate. It was implemented progressively. It started from the first years, and then 2018, the first years that came joined the second years, and in 2019, the first years that came joined the second and the third years. That was when we were able to roll out the policy. So some of these things, we need to put them in correct perspective so that we know how we go around it in terms of policy analysis and policy discussion. But all in all, I must say that the government have done well with TVET education. In terms of their progression certification, they have done marvelously well. providing them with equipment and materials that have thrown some light to the technical and vocational sector. And I think people are now pursuing a lot more technical and vocational education as compared to the previous years.
This policy and the challenges the new government are likely to face in its implementation. We've heard from John Dramani Mahama, President-elect, tell us that as part of their plan for the free SHS policy, they plan to rope in the private sector. What challenges do you foresee?
The biggest challenge for the free senior high school is funding. Now, if the incoming government decides to bring in the private schools, I think that what they have said that they will do is to first and foremost do this consultative assembly with all stakeholders to decide on the future of the free senior high school. I think that particular meeting will bring out a lot of perspective that they can look through and then implement the best way possible for the policy. But as I said, the biggest challenge of the policy is funding. If they are able to secure a sustainable funding for the policy, that will answer most of the questions that we are asking. If there is a sustainable source of funding for the policy, most of the issues that we keep complaining about, feeding, infrastructure, and even bringing in the private schools, would all be answered. So I think that their first focus should be on securing a sustainable funding opportunity for the policy, and after that, most of the things that they want to do, they will be able to do it.
Santi, thank you so much for your time here on The Pulse. Now, President Akufo-Addo also reassured Ghanaians that he has worked to secure the national borders. However, he acknowledged that the chieftaincy disputes remain a growing threat to peace in parts of the country, despite his administration's success in resolving the Dagbon conflict, which he described as a highlight of his tenure.
No longer an assumption that we can make that our land will be safe and secure. Ghana, by the grace of God, remains the only country in the neighborhood that has not fallen victim to terrorist violence. It has taken a lot of concerted effort, and dare I say a lot of money, to enable us to protect our country from the ravages of the variety of terrorist groups operating and destabilizing other countries in the neighborhood. I wish to pay great homage to the security services and their ministerial leaders for the work they do every day to keep us safe. Mr. Speaker, it gives me no great pleasure to state that an important and integral part of the fabric of our society and the hallmark of our traditions, chieftaincy, continues to be a source of insecurity and destabilization. Upon coming into office, we were bringing peace to Dagbon, remains one of the high water marks of my time in office, and I had been so looking forward to counting it with pride as the top of the list in resolving chieftaincy disputes and conflicts. Unfortunately, the sad situation in Boko must necessarily dampen any enthusiasm about the resolution of chieftaincy problems elsewhere. It is a matter of great regret and distress to me personally that in spite of our best efforts, the Boko conflict remains unresolved. Boko is unhappily not the only area of chieftaincy conflict. In judging from the experience of other parts of the country, I will have to mark chieftaincy as a growing source of insecurity that will continue to require a lot of attention. It is clear that part of that process is the need to strengthen the capacities of the Ministry of Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs and the Peace Council, the two frontline institutions responsible for dealing with chieftaincy and other disputes.
Well, reflecting on Ghana's COVID-19 response, President Akufo-Addo described it as exemplary and globally admired. He also highlighted the commissioning of 3 hospitals under the Agenda 111 project, while expressing hope that the incoming government will complete the initiative.
The most important intervention is the Agenda 111 project we have embarked upon that aims to place a hospital in every district. Out of the 101 district hospitals and 2 psychiatric hospitals on the project list, there are 99 district and 2 psychiatric hospitals where contractors are deployed and work is in progress. I'd hoped that construction would be completed on all of them, but that, alas, was not to be. I'm pleased to report that on December 5th, I had the utmost pleasure to commission 3 of the district hospitals. Progress of works on the other 98 active sites range from 5% for sites whose work commenced recently to 95% at other sites. I'm hoping that the incoming Mahama administration will ensure that the project is completed to put our health infrastructure on a sound footing. Furthermore, we launched the National Ambulance Services Revitalization Program, increasing the number of ambulances from 55 barely functioning ambulances to over 300, ensuring timely emergency response and saving countless lives.
While highlighting progress in the fight against illegal mining, President Akufo-Addo emphasized the implementation of progressive policies, the revamping of dormant mines, and the planting of over 52 million trees in 4 years as part of efforts to restore Ghana's forests. Now, he added that the NPP lost some parliamentary seats as a result of his government's fight against illegal mining.
The phenomenon that had been ravaging our environment and destroying our lands and water bodies in the pursuit of mining our gold. I knew and was very much aware that fighting Galamsey was not a universally popular position for a president to take. But I felt strongly enough about the need to protect our environment to say I was prepared to put my presidency on the line in the defense of our lands and water bodies. And indeed, Mr. Speaker, the fight against Galamsey led directly to the loss by my party of several parliamentary seats in the 2020 elections, and to the makeup of this 8th Parliament, which affected the implementation of my policy agenda and impacted the 2nd term of my presidency. I welcome the many loud converts to the fight against Galamsey that suddenly appeared in the run-up to the 2024 elections. And I pray that more and more of us get to embrace the need for the protection of our lands and water bodies. As I have stated on numerous occasions, the fight against Galamsey is not a fight against mining or the extraction of the gold the Almighty has so generously endowed us with. But we owe it to future generations of Ghanaians to extract our minerals in a manner that protects our lands and water bodies. I'm happy to be able to say that we have implemented some of the boldest and most progressive policies in the mining, forestry, and land sectors. As a result of these policies, we overtook South Africa as the leading producer of gold on the continent and have consistently increased gold production to reach an unprecedented 4 million ounces last year.
Well, we are still taking reactions to the President's last State of the Nation address, so it's a good time to take you to the Ashanti region. Some traders, they have been sharing their thoughts about the President's SONA. They expressed disappointment in President Akufo-Addo for failing to develop the Ashanti region. Let's listen.
Yeah, Duma, MPP for me, slow, homework. I am yes, Bawomia Wenya, Apania Donepa, but Wenya, it's walkway.
She says, we really love the NPP, and it is sad that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia did not win the elections. But they neglected the Ashanti region. They did not develop the region at all. They promised us a lot, but delivered few. The president must apologize to us as he's leaving office.
school. And what's that? What's all in that tension? I am a more no baby, Asante region. Odi overhead, a swami, overhead, what yet? Anganaga overhead, Okaso Bay one yet. Asante region, dear, pay Gedi, Central Markets, Kakraka, what baby go, one year, and me uncle, Yagu Musani at 1 year. There's a came before Betia Bessie, so I bet Pamia fire my near bread, and Tia San Holiday one more to all corner. Uncle me been shadowed in a chijano, no may say any man, my near home toy. Ain't another baby, I don't say. Why may a man be at me school?
She says, Nana Akufo-Addo has done a lot for us. I am appreciative of his policy initiatives. He has taken good care of our children in the free senior high school. The president has done well. Ghanaians are grateful.
Bra, school fees is easy. Papa, if I come and see you, Jomha. One more school ye. What be and was say Antoine Adi. Just say, oh, be to me, call school nibi. And much say, what and then will be aba and say, Kuroyum. And penny from one you go cream my tongue. Intimate, they are making us an anado, Onyami and Shrano.
Nemo Yan Soma and Penny Beam. Yan Soma and Penny Beam. Yamin Shrano. Nemo mucho money Ashanti region. And you man no ya Ashanti mem when you know. A bindful floor bebano. Omatua and you man or my penny yena went to men you so. And then I'm on mine and muya dino. Say on my penny be free swa. No my penny for floor ban. I dear nanny on my penny no tisson. Eh no. When you are the urban so on to us. And also my acquaint be. It's me catch say, on Fanshemu can I say, on my penny obey, and you man or yen, when you on to us and from query.
Well, there are still more reactions to the president's SONA, and let me bring in now Janet Nabla. She's chairperson and leader of the People's National Party, a political party. Unfortunately, they were unable to seal their seat in the just ended elections, but then they've been expressing their gratitude to the president for his 8 years of leadership. In a statement they put out earlier today, they are particularly pleased about the passage of the affirmative action bill. Jenna, tell us more about that. Jenna, do you have to unmute for me to hear you clearly?
So let me greet you and your listeners this afternoon. I hope you can hear me.
Loud and clear.
Okay. So when you look at the affirmative action bill, this is a bill that women started fighting about it in 1987. We call something the CEDAW. CEDAW is a convention on the elimination of all forms of discrimination against women. This Ghana went and signed a treaty that they were going to give 40% representation to women. They came home, they were not able to do it. Went back in 1995, they signed another treaty that they would give women 30% representation. They never did it. And in fact, we have been fighting. We've been fighting. I joined the fight. That was 2008 that I joined the fight up until now. So the affirmative action bill is a great deal. It is a great deal for women of this country, because when you look at the representation of women in political parties, you will realize that it is so abysmal, and it is a disgrace to even our democracy that we will have, we'll be the first African country to attain independence. But when they talk about the participation of women in politics, it is abysmal and nothing to write home about. It's not only in politics. You go into even our security services, number of women representation, you go into workplaces, and the number of women that are there is usually so abysmal. So we are so happy that at the end of the day, it was the Nana Akufo-Addo, it is his presidency that, his administration that passed the affirmative action bill into a law, and now we have an affirmative action law in Ghana. So, in fact, we will have to say that thank you. We will say thank you and thank you again. People will not understand, but those who have been in the fight, those who have roamed around everywhere, trying to make sure that the bill is passed, those who know it will say that thank you to Nana Akufo-Addo and the Parliament of Ghana. You see,
I'm just looking at your statement, and I'm seeing here that as a political party, the PNP, you are proposing that a constitutional amendment be done to include a clause allowing the former president and their vice to serve as members of the Council of State. Why are you making this proposal?
Now, our president, Nanado, is full of wisdom, knowledge, understanding of certain things that when you bring a new person on board, the person will never understand. So why should we allow him? Why should we allow President Kufuor? Why should we allow them to just now be unconcerned about our governance system when we need to tap into their knowledge to be able to help in building this country? When you look at the 1979 Constitution, it was there. That clause was in the 1979 Constitution when the People's National Party was in power. But whilst we were going into the 1992 Constitution, that clause was removed. And to us, dear, we think that for us to build this country, we need to have an inclusivity by bringing these people on board, instead of them to now just go home and be relaxing. They are not doing anything anymore. A new person has come in place. They have to fight, do all the wrongs in order to also get it right at the end. Then the person is going out, another one is coming in. We should bring all of them on board so that we can be able to help in strengthening our democratic credentials. So that is why we have kept it in.
Thank you, Janet Nabla. She is chairperson of the People's National Party. Thank you so much for your time here on the Pulse. So we are still taking your reactions to the President's final State of the Nation address. So it's a good time for you to share your thoughts with me on all our social media handles. We're Joe News on TV. You're still watching the Pulse. When we return, we'll tell you about the 90s Jam and why you should be at the plush Pleasant Gardens this evening. Thanks for staying with us here on The Pulse. Now, one person has died with over 30,000 traders affected and more than 7,000 shops destroyed in the fire that swept through and ravaged a section of Kantamanto Market. That's according to the Kantamanto Traders Association chairman, Samuel Amwa. According to him, some of the traders affected by the fire have started rebuilding their stores just 24 hours after the blaze destroyed everything in its path. But in an interview with Joe News, some of them expressed their disappointment in both the outgoing government and the incoming government for their failure to attend to them since the outbreak.
First of all, I know things are hard, but how are things going this morning for you?
Oh, never the enkoyi, your family kopi poku. And never enkoyi, we have 32, 33 years in it. But no crow when they say Yahoo be paying. I have seen 12 years in it. All my call first house, no neck in me can't win your call. You graduate, they've run a boy. Am I eating good because a more boy and say, if you know your child, imagine say, and car, young free, I say, they graduate, they've run the evidence, you're better to. And to say, you're not Vivica Crade, a cataya swa. That's in Shota Cranas will be a free near ma. Over and a cranka crade of school fees. Yeah, we did have because 65 years. 65, 66 years. In medical school, nursing training, and the secondary school, university. Aha, na me de bisika nyina aboa me ma no. Say, me nema nyina hye. Enclancy medical school. Abeda na 20 years na ba na all connect the over and say, ommo aye. Na ye twimra na ewura mu a, ye benya bi kakra dia support enkura no. Okotema haba. Obroni wa we yi ne honum no. Ompa omunko check statistics don here sika e na free broni wa mu. The unemployment worker ye cheapest ye obi atim ye bi ni broni wa. Ukuta 50 cities with him start a business. Say enkura na ekọ university onya adwuma nyina no. Omba ye adwuma de ko online. Atonya tia mu school fees. Se si a omotu ya free ha say ye no. Ye dey. Enti esrava no say ye ntwen. Said ye see 12 years ni no. E ma o meka say o be buba ama ye. Ensi na ensi kira. Ye sre income ni. De all kon say ye pa o mu chew. Ye ni anka se be buba ya de. Na obi free wu ni ma kakra. O betra mu de atabi bia ma ma de said ye yenwu. Enti ye sre wo mu say see a best chance of an Obama and the idea, and the appointment.
And until an pay after 24 hours, my bar must start a shemo and Casamonia.
Because you're going to be paying. My number 2 see and chance that's who be seen there. One of the biggest markets, clothes market in West Africa, Katamantu. The biggest market I ever knew West Africa, Katamantu. And yes, and penny flower would never have a tardy. All my team at the bread move here. All my men are shabby. And then at the Savia Bokron and Savvy Sabracho Nadia. Yet be I know I say. Yanes come I say. Yediga. And one I must start the hammer enemy men in our basis abri. It is abri ya. Mania bed you may have 50 cents yes. Me as grass and any. Yes, in the 12 more you can pay more. Yes, I say, oh, my. And Jessica, and that but on me, I met them near mobile such as in the veteran one, that's why a day. Oh, what the old one, why a day? What say you, but your honor, 12 years in Nipper, woo, your coffee, and they are almost more than 50. I will walk woman in Tiasaba and say, the Oba, and the Oko, say, we know a Shasia, yet tenants association say, I buy more. Near my idea. Young Pinemo Bianca say, oh, be shopping mall. I know baby Biansana and Yabia Husu. Your poor Mitchell, your poor Mitchell, or Moya, and near boy idea. That's what we're through near mouth, through Nadia, Travanica, Cranga, Cradia home. Yes, home.
Thank you. So he has been selling here for more than 32 years. 32 solid years that he has been here selling second-hand clothing. If you recall, Kantamantu Market is the largest resale clothing market in West Africa, one of the largest across the world. And many people troop in this place to come and buy. Then they come and buy them in wholesale and also in small quantities. So they are pleading with government to come to their aid. According to him, when it happened in 2013, government supported them. They are not expecting anything different. They don't want new shops. They don't want anything. All that they are pleading is that they want government to support them and also build the structures themselves. They don't want any NGO, they don't want anyone to come here and come and build the structure. So all that's what that he said. And the consequences, the effect, the impact, the ripple impact of this whole thing, the situation is dire on them. So they are pleading with government to come to their aid. Let's
but kakre betimi so aka ere akere abamu mpanimfo ene yetitu omomo Ghana ha no say fine enye asi na emom de yetete ene ne enam esuase ene ne yebi aso no yagidi say enye sa nete but I say na pamo ho aha pamo ho because your baby a mo yedi mo odwa ena yen Ghana fo no so no yen your baby a yeto ya de ne baby yedi edwa because mo ebi wo Ghana ha bebre but wo kwa abusan wo se nipa dodo se ne gumo ho but Kantamantu eni pa echi wo mo ne nipa ketwa. So what I see you because population where offer long shot to see an hour may go. I meet my catcher say about the 50% in Ebio Moku, 85 in Kunu. Kantamantuan etiti or mobile to Mukrancle 2 and 3. But Ebia you say Biamubesia more time and Nipa more emwa because for Sunia money and Tom or Momu. Because I had dear table so I had no cry and Ghana and the Rakanta ha. What's me the ball bra? What I say, what's me the ball bra? So Sunny at no. But the past 12 years, the same thing is see. 12 years the same thing. NSC 2013. 1 year 10 205 so 2025 so the same thing I dey asensie. But baby I say Kantamantu anyina duru no. One no wa pa me to ho. Aha obi ntimi ntu obi. Enfiri ha say because nipa dum egu ase no. Se ba say bia ben. E bia da plan mu say bia e be simo ya the company ya the ama obi company mi be gina abete ho a. Ya kotena fie 1 year. Na wan e be feed obi.
The most suspect say be NSC be ase.
Oh, fine, yeah, Ghana for, and I see a scene so the bedroom ribbon fine and fan cancer, but the bedroom ribbon so now quite ask him. Sonny at Tiano, because you be a son, yet Tiasem, son send at Tiano, fine a bit messy. But you ain't to me, Cassette fine or being teen, and I send you past mercy and idea. But we are so be animal, and I'm penny for.
Say, dear,
say dear ye need the kotomo jemu papa esansa asama atso ye no ye ni agina ha nyina matan ye nyina agina ha nyina matan obi ani dwetire akurafo pa ewo mu na afia so na hwese nkola suku abra so na maye oye ne say ye hu se Ghana ha ye ni agya esansa obi asi ha ebebusa ye se die mpo na atomo abatuo na edru ho asabre nko mu nyina wo ha opanyimu bie ni ho aba ha bebu science menua manom de ba ne sempo ye hu se ye dampan ne ye de ni asam bia e beka onipa biala wotimi hwe nyankopon anim e de sa oye ne kese wi aba boyense no ye ni bie ye nkuta bie ye bransa ne nsaka ye na omo de sa die we ye die abra omo wo bie sa abra omo tete omo dining table ho enum tea ewi salad akase na yen ye mo bosei ena omo ye nsa die ye de asem nyina amanyame
aban anase de wo kọ ne de oba obi anka samfa na ha mo
ye ho de wo kọ ha ye mpapa de to ma no de wo so anto ama no obi ansi ha obi afa ye nyehwe na ye de asem amonyame o hatawe ye nim so no na be kan asem amaye o ma ye nim hu ase da ye husi ye ni obia na ye de asem ama asafo awura
Ghana mampanyina na dodan kwa Akufo-Addo ko Parliament House or Koma State of the Nation address se wo hwe wa afutu asem ben na odbetu nanim se omunkomo
asema me ka kire papa Akufo-Addo ne se ewiase a ye wei ye dua na afifi edisi ye duai na se afifi ne enya obi a wo betwa enka nya bone eye dan ya ne nuama no wom eye de ne wo faase no wom enka won soma mpo won fo na ni me hye se edie na ato ye wa ja dia mna ye kantamanto ma ja papa eti ye de asem nyina ma nyankopon.
So Ken, all that she is saying is that they've really been affected by the fire outbreak and they can't sit down idle. They need to come back and come and prepare the place to build their own structures. But the problem that they are having is that no government official, both the outgoing and the incoming, no one has come here to even console with them, to even communicate with them what they have taken, the decision that they have taken going forward. So that's the issue that they are pleading. If it was supposed to be in campaign period where we are going for an election, all of them will be coming here, both the incumbent government and also the those who are hoping to come to power. Now we are having the incoming government. None of them are here. So that's one of the issues that they are raising, they are having concern about. We are here speaking to more of them. Ampacho Anopei, Mpom to say.
Mpomboko, Mpomnyaboko, so sa, Yania Brepa, as I say, Asama to Yeno, and yes, some Kituana to Yeno, Sika Yatuagu, Hanomo, and Naya Jinawi. Yadanyane, Yadanyane Yankabian Shim. Yadawa Machine Fray, Yabai, Jada, near Mamuto Toto, Yabi Biase, Yanio come for any penimbia. I will be a mobile say, or Baba here, Nimsebia. They were fast for Nia Man, Masamatu, and Thomas Chayang, Obiesia. Yenishi Ebeka Nemo the air can say you nipa no said that by us our ha. Yadiasa menyame. If you say, I fear Biara, I has 12 years ago, and I has seen me a book, a chichidi, Yasayamba, I has Hanshi, Yasia baby, Yatua baby, I has Yashi. Your name to Kodia, you be Biasay. You need to be a ye baby school, and Qualeco school, so your parents will have a brave. Yan dying. What you are saying to send your Maya, she better than your Danka, better than your Mako school. I read some now to your baby. So be all about Boyana, Ryan Slabemu, no Meshayan.
Ghana Fire Service investigations, no more, and your mate to me decide Jan Biden and come on Chamber investigation. Now, by no soon, your mobile and son, Modica Baha and Nano. Yanyabo try the Bachan. Yanyabo try, a free answer. Yanyabo try, a free answer. And if I don't know what I say, did you what I say no? And that's some Ketua. It is it's not I'm on my Baba Shine, but I'm the chance who know my young woman. And see, I see a dear Nibrabaha, a bayard, and near Trump say, a Mataya, and Yabre, a honey a Juma. And so then I buy a sissy, I said, Yabatana, a Juma. Young investigation be a Bahayang. So she concluded with the fact that they are not going to wait on anyone to begin investigations into the matter, or they are not going to wait for anyone to come here to say that they are going to develop the place. Because once it happened that way, by the time they realize they have secured the place. Authorities have secured the place, which they won't allow them to come and turn the place to how they want it to be. So that's why they've come here this morning. Just barely 24 hours, the fire ravaged the whole shops, the whole market. Over 7,000 shops have been destroyed, affecting more than 30,000 people, and one person have passed away.
Let's now listen to the Kantamanto Traders Association Chairman, Samuel Amo. Now, he spoke earlier to Joy News, revealing that one person lost his life through the fire.
Please, within the saying, what's your name?
Samuel Amo. I'm the chairman for the Kantamanto Traders Association.
Mr. Amo, first of all, what is the impact after the assessment, the initial assessments? How was the impact?
Very sad. Very, very, very sad. Because people have lost their hopes. Everyone here have lost his hope. The only hope that we want is to get back to this. So all that we want is we will be allowed to come back peacefully. And that is why we see we are trying to clear the debris and start business tomorrow. Thereafter, we see to bring our shares back so that normally it have happened. We cannot fight over split milk. It have happened. My only appeal is to the current government, the incoming government, to come together to help us. We are Ghanaians. There is no politics. There is a human factor here, and we want the two sides, the NDC and the MPP, to come together to help us. We know they can help us. Because what happened 12 years ago, the NDC helped us. And I know Julius Zebra. Julius, this is your big brother. You did help us. You are coming. The MPP have 2 days to go, but still they can do something to help. After all, they are friends. The president, he said it, that he have known the current president since 1997. They have been friends since they were on the politics. So I know the two can come together to help us. That is what we need. We are pretty, they help us get back peacefully. That's all.
Just 24 hours. If we ourselves, we could see that some of the shops, they have some fires or smoke coming out of it. So it means that the fire is not completely off. Is it not risky for your members to be going around trying to collect all the debris and start building structures?
Yes. You can see there some smoke, especially where the fire started. And so those places that have metals, there's still smoke there. But it is coming down gradually. So we hope to use our own plan to demolish the fire, to quench the fire for all. I'm sure by the close of the day, every fire here will be quenched. So that, as you see, they've started clearing the place. And thanks, all foundation to have helped us. And all foundation to have provided us with tipper trucks. And they are cutting the debris away for us. And we hope that, as I said earlier, the government and the incoming government might come out together to help us. That's all.
But won't it be an ideal for the government or for authorities to come and clear the place and start doing something for you rather than trying to occupy the place just 24 hours?
We see, we don't want bureaucracy setting. And we know what happens at certain places. We are a living experience. I've been chairman for here for 32 years. When I came to God band 12 years ago, the NDC helped us. But we help ourselves too. And that's why we are doing that. We know the government, the MPP or the NDC or whatever will be in power will help us. But we want to help because the saying is helping help those who help themselves. So we are helping ourselves. And we don't expect, we know the economy cannot cater for everything. The last time it happened, the NDC gave everybody 300 Ghana cedis, a gift. And there was a master give us a loan. And we know it will, we are looking for it. We are not saying if they come up to say, okay, we will help you build the share, or even the cost of the share we are going to take up. We say we are not going to reject it. But we simply want to help ourselves before the government coming.
Last one, before you take leave of us, so far, do you know the number of people that were affected, the number of shops that were burnt, and if there were any casualties that were recorded, if somebody was hurt, somebody passed away or something?
I know somebody died. From where the fire started, he was sleeping on top of some of the bills. So before he realized that there was a fire, he fall from the, he was rushed to Kulebu, but I was made to understand that he just passed on.
He was rushed to which hospital?
He was rushed to Kulebu, but
Kulebu.
Yes, I know. Yes, and that is the casualty, the only casualty that I know of. When we talk about people that have lost their goods, where we were standing now, there are over 2,000 shares here, and you know there are about 7,000 shares were lost to the fire. It's over 7,000 shares. But I can give you the figures. The Kathmandu close. They have over 2,000. We have over 2,500. The railway platform, the Kumi and Co. Everything. You know the Boss Brothers 1 and 2. So they have over 7,000 shares. And when we want to calculate the numbers, using some shares have 2 or 3 people. So when you want to do that, we are over 20 to 30,000 people have lost their daily bread. Yes, because of shares, we see 5 people there for one share, and they are affected. Yes.
Apart from the financial assistance, are there any measures that you think the government or the authorities should implement should this structure come back to life?
We want the government to help us to sack everybody from here, because people were sleeping here. If people were not sleeping here, even though fire, we know people were places where people were not sleeping, but fire just started, Makola, people were not sleeping there, but fire. But here, you look at some, it was a, I don't want to spare, if you listen to them very well, it looks as if the fire were, some things were placed at various advantages, was that's how. Well, the whole, it started from here, and it was burning. And it looked as if we were a trick. You know why I'm saying that? But when the fire started outside the market, just in front of the market, so people who were sleeping here rushed from here to quench the fire. Before they come back, the whole place was in flame. So that is why I make them think that it was a planting.
So is there any suspicion? Are there people that we are suspecting?
I don't want to speculate, but this is what I heard. Chairman, we were outside quenching the fire before I realized there was another outbreak here. Yes.
Sorry about that. So all that he said, as he mentioned, over 30,000 people have been affected here, and also over 2,000 to 7,000 shops also were destroyed yesterday. And the sad part is that he can confirm that one person lost his life. He was sleeping on top of one of the shelves when the fire was setting, and the moment he tried to get down and get out of the shop, he couldn't gain access to go out. He couldn't get access to the exit routes. So he was being locked inside and got burnt. He was taken to Kulebu Hospital yesterday, but the information he has received is that he has passed away, and they are having about 14 casualties, people that they have suffered various injuries. That's the numbers that we are being given according to the chairman of the Traders Association there. But currently, as you can see, there is a big truck there that is collecting the debris, and also the traders are also trying to arrange the place, collecting all the debris, arranging the place, and trying to put up structures to get their life back again. So that's it. The fire outbreak just happened 24 hours ago, barely 24 hours ago, and the fire service have been able to put off the fire, even though there are little smokes, few smokes coming out of some of the containers there. But this is the situation here.
Of a sad scene there at Kantamanto Market. President Akufo-Addo, we know that he has pledged his government's support for traders affected by the fire that swept through and destroyed everything at that market.
I want to put on record that I'm deeply saddened by the devastating fire at Kantamanto Market, which took place yesterday, and has left many traders and their livelihoods in ruins. My thoughts and prayers are with those affected, and I extend heartfelt sympathies to the hard-working traders who have lost their goods and investments. Government stands with you and will work with relevant agencies to ascertain the causes of the fire and to provide the needed support. As a nation, let us unite in compassion and solidarity to help those who have suffered losses. Together, we can extend a helping hand to our fellow Ghanaians in need during this challenging time.
President Akufo-Addo there pledging his support for affected Kantamanto traders. Now, you're still watching The Pulse. When we return, you don't want to go anywhere because we're telling you about the 90s Jam. It's happening today at 8 p.m. Just stay tuned in. Thanks for staying with us here on The Pulse. Now, just before we leave the studios, let me tell you about the 90s Jam. The Joy FM 90s Jam is happening today, 8 p.m. at the Plush Pleasant Gardens, Jolu, here in the Greater Accra region. You need to be there. We'll be giving you great tunes from the 90s. The likes of DJ Black will be behind the turntables and Andy Dosty. Now, for some of you who love Daddy Lumba, I have something for you, a little surprise. My colleague Raymond Aqua, he attempted, doing a remix of Daddy Lumba's Teresa, this time in English. Let's watch and let's see how well he performed.
Yes, and if I don't praise you, Teresa, Teresa, how do you say A in English? A. Because it's Teresa. Teresa, 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 Barbers. Teresa, Teresa. I'm done, right? No, this house is coming. So as Nana is alive, I will never starve. No, this one I will not go thirsty. If I ask for water, she will bring me alcohol. Oh yes. When people do good things, they deserve. Not, I should be singing it. Not okay. I think that's where the problem is.
That's where the problem is. You are rapping it instead of singing it.
No, the English version is a bit tricky. That's the problem.
Okay, so you want to sing it in Chi? Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's Raymond. He tried. Well, I'll give him 2 over 10 just for taking the initiative. I will serenade you myself when you come to Pleasant Gardens this evening, 8 p.m. I'll be there with a host of other colleagues. You need to come and see Kweku Asante on the dance floor. He's always in Parliament, but this time he'll be on the dance floor. Well, that's how we wrap up the bulletin. My name is Faustina Safwa. Final bulletin for the week. Have a pleasant day as you enjoy the rest of our programs.